The first week of NFL preseason is officially in the books, and we've got our first real look at the 2025 class in action. Some players flash superstar potential, others just quietly put together solid games, but a few absolutely stole the show for me. Today, we're breaking down the box score from every game, going over key stats, and highlighting 5 rookies who I think balled out this weekend. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Hey.
All right, before we get into this first game from the Colts and the Ravens, and there's a lot to talk about in this one, I want to go ahead and tell you guys I didn't get to watch all of these games. I watched about 70% of them or so. So there's some games I'm going to know more about than others. But this game here, the Colts versus the Ravens, I did watch. I was very excited for it because Anthony Richardson was starting. One of my favorite players in Tyler Warren was starting. And guys, we got to talk about Tyler Warren. He looked phenomenal in his first, I guess like half of a quarter he played. He got 3 catches for 40 yards. He also had another catch on a tight end screen that got called back because of a penalty. But he looked great. Richardson was targeting him in the short amount of time he was on the field. Daniel Jones, he targeted him a decent amount as well. He was the leading target monster in this offense. Now, they didn't have Josh Downs or Michael Pittman on the field, but Tyler Warren looked great. He looked solid after the catch, solid hands in contested catch situations. So, great stuff from Tyler Warren. I'm excited to see what he does. But let's talk about the rest of the Colts. Anthony Richardson was set to start. He throws a couple of solid passes on time, fairly accurate. The third pass he threw was a little dangerous, could have been picked off. So a mixed bag from Richardson. He gets sacked by an unblocked rusher. I think he should have slid the protection to the right or threw hot, one or the other, because that running back was not supposed to block, guys. I've seen things on Twitter a lot about that running back was supposed to pick up the edge rusher. He was not. So that was completely on Richardson. He dislocates his pinky when he was sacked. He should be fully healthy now, so he should be practicing this week. But let's talk about Daniel Jones. He was horrible. He did not look good at all versus this kind of second team defense by the Ravens. I will say they had Mike Green. They had Malachi Starks out there, so they had some really good players. They're rookies, though. But Daniel Jones did not look comfortable in this offense. He just didn't look good, guys. So I think Richardson is leaning towards being the starter right now, just based off this first preseason game, but we'll see. And then we got to talk about Riley Leonard, who looked good to start, and then he kind of crumbled after that, threw a really bad pick, showcased his legs. We knew he had some solid legs, was a decent athlete, but his mechanics were really bad. Well, not bad, but they weren't great at Notre Dame last year, and that kind of showed up on the film as well still. So he needs a lot of development if he's going to be a backup or perhaps even a starter later on in his career. Ulysses Bentley led the team in rushing. Not much to say there. He's probably not going to get any targets or attempts this year, barely, unless there's a lot of running back injuries. Khalil Herbert gets a touchdown. He looked okay. DJ Giddens didn't look good at all, unfortunately. I think it's Khalil Herbert versus DJ Giddens for that RB2 spot behind JT. The rest of the guys here, A.D. Mitchell looked okay, but no other rookies here to really talk about. For the Ravens, there's not really much to talk about outside of Keaton Mitchell. He looked phenomenal. He was fantastic. Great contact balance for being an undersized back. So I think he's definitely worth a stash in your dynasty leagues. If he's not rostered, y'all definitely need to pick up some Keaton Mitchell. LaJohntay Webster, yes, he had 2 for 41. That's not really important for me. Glad to see that he can be utilized in the pass game. But he looks like an electric returner. I know that doesn't mean anything for us for fantasy, but that's definitely something that was really telling with him. He was a phenomenal returner. Took one back to the house as well. So this game offensively wasn't that great. Both quarterbacks on both teams didn't really do too much. But outside of that, Tyler Warren, major stock up. All right, here's one that we're not going to talk about too much. It was the Bengals versus the Eagles. The Bengals played their first team offense, including Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, for a little over a quarter. And, you know, obviously you saw what Joe Burrow did, his typical great stuff. Jamar Chase caught a touchdown. Desmond Ridder looked okay. Jake Browning struggled a little bit. But Taj Brooks, a guy that I've been telling you to stash for a decent amount of time now, he didn't look too great versus Philadelphia Eagles defense. Glad he got 10 carries, though. That's impressive. But outside of that, we'll see who ends up getting that RB2 role in Cincinnati, hoping it's Taj Brooks, because it's basically Gary Brightwell or Taj Brooks, really. And Gary Brightwell's not really that big of a threat nowadays. Kyle McCord, a guy that I was super high on. I actually didn't get to see him throw his 5 attempts. I'm still trying to look for those on Twitter. He obviously didn't have a great day. 1 for 5, 8 yards and an interception. Definitely not what you want to see, especially when DTR is outplaying you. That is not what you want. So he's probably struggling to basically make the roster and might be a practice squad guy at this point. So hopefully that's not the case. AJ Dillon makes an appearance. He looked okay, big as ever. Tanner McKee also lit it up for the Eagles. He looked phenomenal. Johnny Wilson, if you guys remember him last year, he was that giant 6'6" wide receiver. He goes 3 for 73. That was cool. Darius Cooper had a good day. I'm not really taking much from this passing game, this receiving game, right? Because they don't really throw the ball all that much. But yeah, outside of that, there's not much to talk about in this game. All right, so a game that I did get to start to watch, but then unfortunately left around the third quarter or so to go to sleep. This game was a little late. The Raiders and the Seahawks, they end in a tie here. Cam Miller looked decent. He was a late day 3 guy out of North Dakota State. So he's fighting for that QB2 spot. He's probably going to be the practice squad guy because AOC has just been proven to be a solid backup when he needs to be. Geno Smith had a short day. We're going to talk about this guy, Ashton Jeanty, 3 for -1. A lot of people are overreacting to this. Yes, he played a couple of I think he played 1 or 2 reps with the first team offensive line and then 1 with the second team. I might have that flip-flopped. But yeah, Jeanty, he made a really good spin move on one of these attempts, but didn't really get any holes to run through. He just kind of got stopped immediately. So yeah, that's a tough showing. Hopefully he can get out there in the next preseason, play a little bit more than 3 carries. He's going to be the RB1. He should still be drafted first over any of the other running backs in this class, even with a guy that I'll be talking about here in a little bit. But Dylan Lawbay, a guy that we were talking about out of New Hampshire last year, this dual threat kind of CMC Dollar General version. Dylan Lawbay, 5 for 34. That was impressive. Unfortunately, he had 1 carry last year and he fumbled it. Raheem Mostert looked explosive. The wide receiver room, 1 for 17 for Dante Thornton Jr. He had another target where it dropped. He had a basically 70-yard touchdown that was underthrown. So he's got a lot of explosive upside still. We'll see how he does in the coming weeks. He's a very big-time upside wide receiver. So keep your eyes on Dante Thornton Jr. Jack Besh had a catch for 1 for 5. He was getting open a lot underneath. He just wasn't getting targeted for whatever reason. I like the separation ability that Jack Besh had, so definitely keep an eye out on these Raiders wide receivers. Then we'll move on over to the Seahawks here. Jalen Milroe, he looked decent. I've heard a lot of positive things about Milroe in camp. 6 for 10 for 61 yards. Not bad. He also had 3 for 38 on the ground as well, so good stuff there. Damian Martinez, he had a really rough day. I liked him out of Miami. George Holani had a great day, almost 9 yards per carry and a touchdown. Good stuff. He looked fairly explosive early on. Torrey Horton, a guy that I've talked about a little bit. I always liked him. He's coming off the ACL injury, ran really well at the combine despite that. So Torrey Horton, he's probably pushing for that wide receiver 3 role and might even be the wide receiver 2 on this team once Cooper Kupp moves on after this season, more than likely. So Torrey Horton's definitely worth the stash right now. Ricky White got a catch. That was good. A couple of catches from Arroyo, their second-round tight end. So a lot of rookies in this Seattle offense that might be primed to get some targets, to get some carries this year. So definitely be on the lookout for the Seattle Seahawks rookies. So unfortunately, this game got canceled in the fourth quarter due to Morris Norris getting a pretty significant hit to his head that ended up making him go unconscious. He was convulsing a little bit. So that was concerning. So the Falcons and the Lions, they decided to call it quits a little bit early. But in terms of a fantasy standpoint, we had Tesla catching a touchdown. That was pretty cool. He's continuing to impress in preseason. Definitely going to get a spot in this roster. I think he's the wide receiver 3 in this offense, probably sooner than people might think. For Atlanta, there's not much to talk about here. Nick Nash got a few targets. That was cool, but he wasn't really playing with the ones or anything like that. So hopefully Nick Nash gets a roster spot, because I did like what he showed us at San Jose State last year. He just doesn't offer a lot as an athlete, but in terms of what he can do in the route running and the contested catch ability, Nick Nash definitely good there. But yeah, outside of that, there's not much. Hopefully, Morris Norris can recover very soon. I heard an update where it's nothing super serious, so hopefully Morris Norris is okay and he can get another preseason game under his belt this season. All right, we're going to talk a little bit in this one. The Cleveland Browns beat the Carolina Panthers 30-10. I don't really worry about preseason final scores or anything like that, but this was the debut in the preseason for Shedeur Sanders. And guys, people are praising this guy. They're saying he had a fantastic showing. And for the most part, Shedeur Sanders had a really good showing. He made a few really good passes, specifically the 2 touchdowns. Both of those touchdowns were very good passes. One of them, he layered it over a guy. The other one was a tight window throw over the middle. Very good stuff from Shedeur Sanders. For the most part, I thought he played really well. Didn't really miss too many passes. Threw a couple of tight windowed ones that I thought was a little bit dangerous. But him running around 15, 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage, that can't happen. He's going to have to figure that out, because if he gets an intentional grounding because of that, or he ends up getting sacked and it's 2nd and 35, that kills drives. So Shedeur is going to have to stop doing that and play in the pocket a little bit more. But outside of that, Shedeur Sanders played phenomenally, and his stock definitely goes up. For me, you guys know I have not been the biggest on Shedeur Sanders, but he proved me wrong a little bit in this first preseason game. So it was some impressive stuff, and then there was some other things that kind of worried me still. But outside of that, he picked up a couple of 3rd downs as well with his legs, so that was really good. In terms of the rookies, there's not really many rookies here that are going to be relevant. Dylan Sampson had an okay day. He only had a couple of attempts, mainly because he's probably their RB1 with Jerome Ford. They'll probably split carries until they figure out the Judkins situation. Then we'll move on to the Panthers. Bryce Young had a really good first drive. Love that for Bryce Young. He's continuing to look really good. ETN looked Rico Dowdle looked Chuba Hubbard looked okay. Look who led the team in receiving yards, guys. Tet McMillan, my wide receiver 1B behind Travis Hunter. I think with the landing spot here, he's probably the wide receiver 1 this year in terms of points for rookies. But Tet, he had a really good contested catch on the sideline for about 30 yards. Then he caught another pass. He had a couple of other targets where he probably should have came down with it, but they were broken up. So he could even have more yards and more receptions here, but they did target him a decent amount. Jimmy Horn Jr., you see him, he got 4 catches. They tried to utilize him in the screen game a little bit. Didn't really work too well. Coker caught a touchdown. So one concerning thing, if you guys are Coker guys, Leggett was playing over him in the first team. So it was Leggett, it was Tet, and it was Adam Thielen was the 3 wide receiver sets. So I don't think Coker's going to be on the field as much as people think, unless Leggett really struggles this year, or, Coker ends up outplaying him and earning a roster spot that's, a wide receiver 1 throughout preseason. I don't see that happening because of Leggett's first-round draft capital. Leggett did get thrown out of the game almost immediately with a fight, so hopefully he doesn't continue to do that. But outside of that, there's not much more to talk about outside of the Shedeur Sanders performance. All right, I was really excited for this one, mainly for one play in particular. It was the New England Patriots versus the Washington Commanders. And I've gotten a lot of hate this offseason. I said TreVeyon Henderson was in the same tier as Ashton Jeanty. Obviously, Ashton Jeanty I had as my RB1, but TreVeyon Henderson was my RB2. I preached it all offseason long. I had him over Hampton. A lot of people did not like me for that. But we saw that in the first preseason game, the explosive upside, which was the reason he was my RB2, right? TreVeyon Henderson gets the ball in the opening kickoff, takes it 100 yards back to the house, showcasing some explosive speed, broke a couple of tackles in the process, and then every single play that we saw him in, he had multiple receptions. He had 3 receptions, 12 yards, yes, and then he had 1 carry for 18 yards. Every single one of his touches, he was breaking a tackle and trucking people. Now, obviously, that explosiveness, that violent running nature could get him into trouble with some durability concerns, but man, he looked phenomenal. He did not look like he belonged on a preseason field at all, but he looked phenomenal. But outside of that, Drake May looked okay. He rushed in for a touchdown. That was solid. Efton Chisholm, a guy who's been making a ton of noise in preseason, he goes 6 for 50 and 1 touchdown. He looked really solid. He was getting spammed targets, kind of looking like a little bit of a Wes Welker type. I will say with him, there's a ton of guys that are in front of him. You got Pop Douglas, you got Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte, who got a lot of chemistry with Drake May. So we'll see where he ends up fitting into this lineup, but he definitely looked good in this preseason game. Outside of that, Kyle Williams, he had a wide open slant for a touchdown. Josh Dobbs unfortunately missed him. He looked good in terms of what he could do in terms of separation. So this 0 for 0 and 0 is not indicative of how he played. So that's important. If you're actually watching these games and you're not just looking at the stat box, you're going to know a lot more than a lot of other people. And outside of this, the Ben Wooldridge, probably a practice squad guy if he makes the team at all, but he had a decent showing. Josh Dobbs played rather poorly. On the other side of the ball, Josh Johnson, playing for his 45th NFL team, has a decent showing. Sam Hartman definitely didn't have a great showing. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt had some explosive runs, but he was stopped at the line a decent amount. But he did showcase some of that vision, some of that elusiveness, some of that burst that is getting a lot of dynasty managers excited. So Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, that's definitely a guy that you want to keep stashed. A name that I did not expect to talk about, guys, is Ja'Cory Brooks. He was last in terms of all the wide receivers that I saw on film. He was dead last, but 5 for 59. He's got great hands, great jump ball ability. He was just painfully slow to watch on film, but good to see that he gets some reps in the preseason. Maybe makes the team, maybe doesn't, I'm not sure. Good to see Michael Gallup getting a couple of touches coming out of retirement. That's cool. Yeah, I think there was a lot of interesting stuff to take away from this game, mainly TreVeyon Henderson and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. But yeah, if you guys have TreVeyon Henderson, y'all should be laughing to the bank right now. Let's go ahead and talk about the Giants versus the Bills. So Jaxson Dart, he's the first guy I'm going to talk about here. He looked phenomenal. He looked really good. 12 of 19, 154 yards and a touchdown. He pretty much made the right read, the right progression, right throw every single time. It was just his ball placement was a little bit hit or miss in his first game. Now, he made a lot of really big NFL throws, some deep corner routes. He threw a 34-yard touchdown, I believe, to Lil Jordan Humphreys on a deep 9 route. So that was really good. I'm really excited to see what Jaxson Dart does in the future for this franchise after this season, maybe. But he went to the perfect situation. I said in the pre-draft process for Jaxson Dart, if you guys throw this kid to the fire, he's going to crash and burn. But if you put him behind somebody and develop him, that's exactly what the Giants are going to do. Brian Daboll has had a history of developing quarterbacks like Josh Allen. So really good stuff for Jaxson Dart. The future is up for the New York Giants. Excited to see what he does in the rest of the preseason. Now, Tommy DeVito had a decent day. Jameis Winston, he's out here hitting the Heisman on guys. Hilarious person. Good day as well for Jameis. Russell, a lot of dink and dunks in his first drive with the offense. A lot of throwing to the tight ends. So not much to say for Russell Wilson, but he didn't make any mistakes, really. You see the rushing for New York. Jaxson Dart led the team. Also, another facet of Jaxson Dart's game that people don't really talk about, he can rush the football. I mean, he had 400 yards rushing last year, and that takes away all the times he was sacked. You know, they subtract sacked yards from your rushing total. So he realistically could have had 700-800 rushing yards. Now, he didn't be as physical as he was at Ole Miss, so that's good. He's sliding, no risk of injury there. They were throwing to the tight ends a lot more than I expected. So that's something good. If you guys have Theo Johnson, that might be a positive. But for the Bills, there's not much to talk about outside of James Cook not playing. That's a big thing. I've been telling you guys to pick up Ray Davis, who didn't really have much in terms of production this past weekend, but James Cook is still saying, hey guys, I'm not playing until y'all pay me, and I don't think the Bills are wanting to pay what James Cook is wanting. So Ray Davis could very easily be the RB1 and Ty Johnson be the third down back. Frank Gore Jr., he's probably still the practice squad guy, but he had a decent day. And then outside of that, you have a bunch of guys catching balls that you've never heard of before outside of Dawson Knox. But yeah, I think great day from Jaxson Dart. Great day from the quarterbacks all around. And I'm excited to see what the Giants do in week 2. All right, so I've said this a lot this year. I've been saying that Jalen Noel's probably going to have a better season than Jaden Higgins in terms of production. That might sound like a hot take, but I'm sticking with that right now. But in terms of the Texans, Davis Mills is one of the best backup quarterbacks, in my opinion, in the NFL. So I think he firmly is going to be that QB2. So I think Graham Mertz is droppable. I mean, he had a terrible first preseason showing, 7 of 14, 27 yards, 3 picks. If you guys had him at all anyways, I don't know why he was drafted, because he wasn't good at Florida either. I mean, him and DJ Lagway split time. So, yeah, I think he's droppable at this point. Woody Marks, he had a few carries, didn't do much with it. Excited to see what he does in the coming weeks, because I was very high on him as a prospect. Outside of that, you saw Jalen Noel, 2 catches for 16 yards. Jaden Higgins, 2 for 8. He's probably playing on the outside a little more than I'd like. Jalen Noel's probably going to start in the slot a little bit until I know they have Christian Kirk, who's probably starting in the slot. But I think Jalen Noel, he's going to start in the slot more so towards mid-season if Christian Kirk gets hurt, or if Jalen Noel outplays him, because Jalen Noel is a sneaky good football player, guys. Y'all will see that very soon. In terms of J.J. McCarthy, he finally gets to step on the field for another preseason game. 4 of 7, 30 yards. Nothing flashy here. Made a couple of solid plays, but nothing much, not a big sample size here. Sam Howell had an okay day. Sneaky stash guy for Sam Howell. Just saying, if J.J. McCarthy doesn't pan out, Sam Howell's proven to be a fantasy-relevant quarterback before. So definitely keep your eyes out on Sam Howell if he's available in your leagues. Jordan Mason didn't really have too much going on here. Average, 5 yards carry. That was solid. Outside of that, Jordan Addison caught a few balls in preparation for his suspension, so that's good. Jalen Naylor gets, a couple targets every time. 2 for 14 for Ty Felton. That's exciting. I think Ty Felton's a sneaky stash too. I think he might get on the field early while Addison is out, so keep an eye out on Ty Felton. But outside of that, man, I'm excited to see what CJ Stroud does in his preseason showing, and excited to see what J.J. McCarthy does with this first-team offense if they trout them out there next week. Not going to talk about this game too much, the Cowboys and the Rams. Joe Milton had a decent day, touchdown and a pick. He missed the mark a lot with that big arm of his, but I think he's still firmly the QB2 in this offense. Phil Maffa, he had a lot of attempts, not much to show for it though. Definitely had a better showing than some of the other rookie running backs. And the running back room in Dallas is wide open. Who knows who's going to get the majority of the carries? Probably Javonte Williams, could be Jaden Blue, could even be Phil Maffa. Who knows what the Cowboys are doing? Not much to talk about with the receiving room. I will say CeeDee Lamb got trucked by an official. Thankfully, he's okay. Interestingly, Stetson Bennett gets the start for the Rams. Is the only quarterback here to make an attempt. So with Stetson Bennett, I don't think he makes the roster, unfortunately. He's had a lot of mental health problems. I know he had to check himself into rehab. Great story because he did have a decent showing. Former national championship winner with Georgia. So I think they're letting him get as many throws on film so he can potentially get picked up by another team. And if he continues to have showings like this, I think he can get picked up as a backup or a practice squad player with another team. If not, a practice squad player with the Rams, because obviously I think it's Stafford and Garoppolo at this point in time. Jarquez Hunter had a decent showing. Blake Corum, the 2 rushing touchdowns, huge for him. So glad to see Corum. I think he's probably firmly the RB2 in this offense, especially if he's performing like this. Outside of the receiving room, not much to talk about. Corum gets a catch. Mumfield, I think, got hurt, unfortunately. But, yeah, outside of that, I think Corum is firmly an RB2 spot. And Stetson Bennett, hope and pray that he continues to have some good showings in the preseason. The Dolphins are wondering where this was last year. Skylar Thompson torched the Jaguars this past weekend. 3 touchdowns, over 200 yards passing, one of the better performances in week 1 of the preseason. Caleb Johnson, one of my favorite running backs in the class, didn't have the best showing, 8 for 20, had a couple of solid plays, but outside of that, not much. He's going to have to be a little bit more consistent. Roman Wilson gets a couple of catches. That's important. I can't wait to see what he does. He's a stash for me for sure. Caleb Johnson gets a catch as well. Brock Taylor, the undrafted guy, he gets a couple of catches. Outside of that, Scotty Miller, geez Louise, he's still on rosters. Robert Woods even, that's crazy. Steelers got a lot of veteran talent here. That's cool. So now we'll get to some of the cool stuff here. Jacksonville, they have a bunch of people throwing the football. Trevor Lawrence had an okay day. The only incompletion was a hospital pass to Brian Thomas Jr. Very dangerous pass there, but overall, Trevor Lawrence looked decent. Bayshul Tootin got a touchdown. That's interesting. That's solid performance from Bayshul. Didn't fumble as well. That's really good. Travis Etienne had a couple of carries. Notably, he was running with the first team, so I do think he's still their starter for now. In terms of the receiving, we got to talk about Travis Hunter. He had 2 for 9. Played a little bit more than expected on offense. Also had a couple of plays on defense as well where he missed a tackle. But overall, I wouldn't take much from this. Obviously, Brian Thomas Jr. went 1 for 8. Brenton Strange had a catch. overall, and Bashal Tootin caught a couple passes. So I think Tootin stocks up a little bit here. And Travis Hunter playing a lot more on offense than, people were expecting. They thought more of a 50-50 split. But when I told you guys about the unofficial depth chart where he was a wide receiver 1 and a CB2, I was telling you guys Travis Hunter's going to play a lot more on offense than you were expecting. And that is the case. So Travis Hunter, I think his stock's up a little bit as well. But outside of that, not much to talk about with this game. So this isn't a game that I got to see a lot of. I did get to watch all of Cam Ward's throws, though. And that's the first guy I want to talk about here. I'm ignoring the score. Obviously, the Buccaneers blew him out. But guys, Cam Ward looked a lot better than I was expecting him to look. He looked on time. He looked poised. He was able to just sit back there in the pocket, bounce around like he did at Miami. And he looks like his game's translating really well. He's processing really well. 5 for 8 for 67 yards. He went 3 and out in his first drive and then 5 straight completions in the second drive. So really good stuff from Cam Ward. I'm really impressed with what I saw on film. Some spam targeted Calvin Ridley, guys. So if you're a Calvin Ridley owner, that is big time W's for us. If we own Calvin Ridley, I've been saying go pick up Calvin Ridley. His ADP is absolutely garbage right now in Dynasty and in redraft even. I think he's a sneaky wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 on your team. Khalil Mullings had a decent showing. 7 for 33 is not the best, but definitely not the worst. One of the better performances from a rookie running back. Tony Pollard had a touchdown. Tajay Spears, he went out with a high ankle sprain that just got diagnosed today. So he'll be out a few weeks. So he'll probably start the season slow. So Khalil Mullings, I think his stock's up a little bit because of that. Gunnar Helm had a 16-yard catch. Chig had a 10-yard catch. Restrepo and Ao Manor had a target by Cam Ward, but it was one of Cam Ward's a little more dangerous passes. Could have even been a pick. But outside of that, I thought the Titans and their first team played pretty well. Kyle Trask, he's probably firmly the quarterback too. I remember when Kyle Trask, people were saying Kyle Trask is going to win the job versus Baker Mayfield when Baker Mayfield had just moved over from the Rams. Yeah, I see how that worked out. But Kyle Trask, think he's a solid QB2 in this team. In terms of the running backs, Sean Tucker looked okay. Rashad White looked okay. But Bucky Irving, I think, is firmly this team's RB1. But let's talk about it. Emeka Egbuka, 1 big catch for 21 yards. Raheem Jarrett, he had a decent day. Ryan Miller had a decent day as well. But Emeka Egbuka, I'm really excited to see what he does this year. I think he's even viable in redraft formats. I think that's how good he is. I think Godwin's going to start a little bit slow with the injury, the surgery on his foot. Mike Evans isn't getting any younger, guys. So Egbuka, he could be the wide receiver 1 in this offense. I'm just saying he was phenomenal. Great person as well. I'm going to say that every time I talk about Egbuka. So, yeah, really good stuff, exciting stuff in this game. Cam Ward to Calvin Ridley this year could be a lot better than people expect. So, unfortunately, guys, I didn't even get to watch this game. There's not a ton of rookies on either one of these teams that I'm super excited about outside of maybe Matthew Golden and Arian Smith. But I did get to see the Justin Fields touchdown run. That was pretty cool. I see from the stats here he had a pretty solid day, very short day. Brady Cook had a decent showing. Adrian Martinez, likely the practice squad guy if he even makes the team. I think these two guys are battling for the QB3 practice squad position. Donovan Edwards looked okay. It's tough to be a running back in New York, but Braylon Allen, he's a guy that I've been telling you guys to go grab in the offseason if you can. He had a decent day as well, had a really solid run that I saw on X. Outside of that, not much to talk about. Donovan Edwards caught a 20-yard pass as well. That's really good. So he had a really good day. Arian Smith had 2 for 18. That was solid. I wish I know. He's probably running with the second team as well as Donovan Edwards. So Malachi Corley got a rep. No targets for Garrett Wilson, notably. but he did make the field a little bit. For the Packers, not much to really talk about here either. I think, I saw Matthew Golden had 1 catch for 1 yard. Will Shepard had 2 for 20. But outside of that, not much to talk about. Mecole Hardman is notably on the Packers now. Hey, thank you, Mecole. You won us the Super Bowl. But outside of that, not really much to talk about here with this game. All right, so another game that didn't really have a ton of impact in terms of rookies or anything that we learned about any new players. But the Chiefs and the Cardinals, we saw Patrick Mahomes go down there and get a touchdown. Very much expected against the Cardinals here. Zappy, he's throwing interceptions like he was throwing touchdowns in college. Minshew had a decent day. Chris Oludekun, he's a longtime practice squad quarterback for us the past 2 or 3 seasons now. He had an okay showing. He had a really solid rush. Carson Steele gets a couple of carries. We kind of let everybody eat in this game. I'm a Chiefs fan if you guys did not know. Yeah, but nothing super particular here. Brashard Smith, I think, is going to be a special teams return guy / third down back, if he even gets that honor. But I do like some of the explosiveness he provides. Robert Tonyan, he had a good day. He's probably, if he continues to play like this in the preseason, he probably gets that tight end 3 spot over Jared Wiley. So we'll see how that goes. Elijah Badger gets a couple of catches. That's good to know. Jalen Royals, he has 3 for 14. Excited to see what he does if Rice gets suspended. Very, very curious about this guy. I loved him coming out of Utah State. Outside of that, we'll go over to the Cardinals here. Not much to say. Kyler Murray did throw a pretty bad interception, but outside of that, looked really good. It's kind of unfortunate because, you look at the stat line, 7 for 8, 96 yards, and 1 pick. So, honestly, I watched the first half of this game. Kyler Murray looked pretty solid outside of that 1 pick. So, everybody's going to show the bad plays of Kyler Murray because he's just easy to hate on, I guess. Same with Caleb Williams. But outside of that, he had a pretty solid performance. Trey Benson, I thought he had some really solid runs in this game. I think he's going to eat into James Conner's carries this year. Bam Knight had a decent showing as well, but not much. He wasn't playing against anybody, really. Marvin Harrison Jr. had a 15-yard catch. Missed him. I want to say Marvin Harrison Jr. got open a lot in this game as well. Trey Benson gets a 20-yard catch. That's important. Trey McBride gets a catch. So their first team getting a little bit involved here. But outside of that, nothing much really to talk about this game either. All right, now we're moving on to the Broncos and the 49ers. Bo Nix had a weird day. I think he ended up having a safety as well because of an intentional grounding call. So not a great showing from him, but I think he'll be fine. Stidham and Ellinger came in and were fine. Stidham looked really good, actually. Stidham also led the team in rushing despite Harvey having 7 carries and Estime having 8 carries. I think RJ is still the RB1 in this offense despite the J.K. Dobbins signing. He looked explosive in a few plays, cuts it back a little bit too much for my liking, but RJ Harvey is definitely explosive, and you guys should definitely be watching him and definitely be picking him in the first round of your rookie drafts if you haven't done them already. Now, let's go ahead and talk about Pat Bryant. Pat Bryant is spectacular. I think he's going to be phenomenal for this Broncos offense. So if you guys can stash him, he probably was picked in your rookie drafts because he was a 3rd round pick, I believe. He's phenomenal. He's got a really good jump ball ability, good yak ability as well. He's a tall, I think he's 6'3". So Pat Bryant has a ton of upside. J.K. Dobbins gets a catch. RJ Harvey gets a catch. Excuse me. Outside of that, not much to talk about here. And the 49ers, I don't think Corey Kiner's undrafted. He had a decent day. With all the running back injuries, with Jordan James getting hurt, I wish he would have been able. He broke one of his fingers a couple days ago. I would have loved to see what Jordan James could have done in this offense. I think he'll be ready for next week. Hopefully. Amir Abdullah as a 49er is really weird. But, Corey Kiner had a great day for the most part. Mac Jones None of the quarterbacks really looked particularly good, but Mac Jones looked okay outside of the pick. Corey Counter catches a pass as well. Don't see anything from any of their first team players. That's expected with the amount of injuries that goes on with the 49ers. So next week for the 49ers, if Jordan James gets to play, definitely be on the lookout for him. I tried telling you guys before this game started, before the preseason week 1 started, I was telling you guys to go draft or go grab Ollie Gordon II if he was available in any of your leagues. For the most part, he's probably rostered, but he looked phenomenal. I mean, he looked really good, 8 for 33 and a touchdown. I'm really excited to see what Ollie Gordon does as he continues this preseason performance from him. Devon Achane looked really good in limited carries, but they lack a third and short back, a goal line back, and I think Ollie Gordon is going to be that guy because Jalen Wright did not look very good as a goal line guy. He's more of your speedy back. He wasn't able to punch it in. He does get a touchdown, but he tried 3 or 4 times to try to get in, and he just kept getting stuffed over and over and over again. But let's go ahead and look at the performances. Tua was decent in his first few attempts. Quinn Ewers, 5 of 18 for 91 yards. He did not have a good performance. He was the lowest rated quarterback on my board, and notably that was probably due to him playing through injury and playing in that horrible Texas offense. That's not very QB-friendly offense in my opinion. But Quinn Ewers definitely needs to improve upon that because Zach Wilson is definitely the QB2 as of right now, and Quinn Ewers is probably looking at a practice squad spot as of right now. Madison gets in with a touchdown, but Ollie Gordon looked great, man. I think if he keeps showing out, he could be their lead back by mid-season. Taj Washington, a guy that people were excited about, he has a 53-yard performance. Ollie Gordon gets a 40-yard catch as well. Very important stuff. Nick Westbrook-Akine, a very underrated signing by the Miami Dolphins. He had a ton of touchdowns last year, was very solid for the Titans last year, so good that they brought him in. They kind of were looking at that wide receiver 3 spot between, you had Tyreek and Waddle, but who else? So you got Malik, Taj, and Nick Westbrook-Akine fighting for that wide receiver 3 spot. Theo Weiss from Colorado, I believe. He has a catch as well. Nothing much to talk about outside of that. Ollie Gordon did fumble the ball once. Quinn fumbles twice. That's tough. Moving on to the Chicago Bears. Here's another guy I was talking up all offseason. I'm not going to talk about Case Keenum cooking preseason defenses. That's going to be expected. He's one of the best backups, honestly. I mean, he's been phenomenal for a long time. Kyle Monangai, 6 for 30. Very impressive stuff from Monangai. He had a long run as well. He's got some sweet feet, man, so very good performance from him. Excited to see what he does because that RB2 spot is basically wide open, and I think Monangai can take that role. And if Swift gets hurt or anything like that, Monangai is going to be skyrocketing up board, so he's definitely worth a stash right now. Luther Burden, 2 for 29. Impressive stuff there. Jade Walker, he gets 41 and a touchdown. Good stuff from him. Colston Loveland gets his first catch. Solid stuff from him. But yeah, Luther Burden looked pretty good in this game. Even though it's a tie, who cares about the score? Luther Burden, if he can continue to get some reps, I know he started off training camp a little slow with an injury and, got yelled off the field by Ben Johnson. Once he gets more comfortable and gets into his own, I think he can be a dangerous weapon, hence why they picked him in the second round. All right, last but not least, we have the Saints versus the Chargers, and the Saints obviously are in that quarterback battle. I think Shuck kind of gets the better of this game at least. He has the deep touchdown pass. He's offering a little bit more in terms of throwing down the field. I think Rattler's being a lot more safe with his throws, and Shuck's just trying to, air it out, trying to make things happen, hence why he has more yards and a touchdown and a pick. But I think Rattler is just a little bit better of a quarterback as of right now. I think he's got more experience. He had a few starts last year as well. I think Rattler should win the job. and hopefully get his confidence back a little bit. I think he's just worried a little bit too much on making mistakes, hence why I think Shuck outplayed him in this game. Shuck had a decent day. Like I said, 54-yard touchdown to Mason Tipton. But Jake Haener firmly behind these two in the quarterback battle. Rattler, he ends up leading the team in rushing yards, which is a little sad. Kendre Miller gets 6 attempts. I think he's roster clogger at this point. I know he's still young. He's been young forever. He just hasn't looked good in his opportunities, really. So Kendre Miller is not my guy as of right now, and I think he's droppable. Nothing else really for the Saints rushing attack. In terms of the receiving attack, not much either outside of this 54-yard touchdown. We'll go over to the Chargers. Trey Lance, in terms of a passer, a little bit worse than what he showed in the Hall of Fame game. But as you can see in the actual rushing angle, 7 for 48 and a touchdown. We knew Trey Lance had legs, so good to see that he's still utilizing them. I think he could be a solid backup for Justin Herbert if he continues to play like this. So I'm glad to see Trey Lance at least find a home on a roster, being a backup, even if he's not the franchise quarterback that we all hoped he would be. Raheem Sanders, a guy that I've been telling you guys to stash for a little while now, 10 for 42 and a touchdown. He also catches an 11-yard pass as well. We'll go over that in a minute. But yeah, Raheem Sanders looks solid. I think he offers some sweet feet, some solid power as well, some shifty elusiveness as well. So Raheem Sanders, if Najee Harris is out longer than I anticipate, he could be the RB2. I know people like Hassan Haskins. I like Raheem Sanders a good bit. He was pivotal for South Carolina last year. So, yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the receiving attack. Oronde Gadsden, he's one of my favorite tight end sleepers in the entire draft. He was a top 5 tight end for me coming out of the draft, and he gets 2 for 15. Impressive stuff there. Obviously, we have Raheem Sanders, 1 for 11. Kendre Lambert-Smith gets 2 targets, no catches, unfortunately. Excuse me. 2 targets, no catches. Definitely worse than what he showed in the Hall of Fame game, but I'm excited to see what he continues to do. I think he'll earn a spot on this team. But yeah, I loved his releases. I like some of the speed, and he's a little bit taller as well, so a lot of upside there for Kendre. Then you see 1 target from Trey Harris. I think you're going to expect this a lot from Trey Harris in the regular season. 2-3 targets, unfortunately, maybe no catches. And he's kind of like Christian Watson, not as big of an athlete, in terms of height, weight, speed as Christian Watson, but I think he's going to have that same type of production as Christian Watson, where he might have, 3 for 100 yards and a touchdown. Then the next week might have 3 targets for nothing. I think that's the type of receiver Trey Harris is, unfortunately, and how he fits into this Chargers passing attack that I think might have the fewest attempts in the entire NFL. So Trey Harris, I'm fading completely in a lot of these drafts. If this weekend has any sign of what's coming, the 2025 rookie class is going to be a blast to watch. These early performances aren't just preseason fluff. Some of these guys are already pushing for real roles on their teams. Which rookie impressed you the most in week 1 of the preseason? Drop it in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, and join the Bobby's Big Board Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you guys as always for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Hey.